My name is Joanne Pritchard. I am 44 years old, and I have been a stepmother for 9 years. I want to start by telling you what kind of stepmother I am, because I think it matters for the rest of this story. I am not the kind who tried to replace anyone. I am not the kind who demanded to be called mom, or who repositioned the family photographs, or who treated my husband's daughter like a problem to be managed rather than a person to be known. I came into this with my eyes open and my expectations calibrated, because I had two younger brothers whose parents divorced and remarried, and I had watched those households from the inside, and I knew exactly which mistakes I did not want to make. I had a list, actually, not a written list, a mental one, built over years of observation of things I would not do. I would not compete. I would not compare. I would not make Maya choose, in any moment large or small, between her mother and me. I would not speak badly about Christine in front of her daughter, even when Christine made that difficult, which she did, with some regularity, in ways I am still choosing not to detail here, because Maya might someday read something like this, and she does not need more conflict loaded into the relationship between the two adult women in her life. I had my list, and I followed it, and for the most part, it worked. Maya was 6 when her father and I got serious. She is 15 now. In between those ages are 9 years of Saturday mornings, of school pickups, of stomach bugs managed, and nightmares talked through and homework sat beside. 9 years of learning how she takes her eggs and what kind of music she cannot concentrate to, and which of her friends require more energy than others, and why. 9 years of watching her grow from a small girl who used to drag a specific purple blanket everywhere she went into a young woman who is sharp and funny and perceptive in ways that regularly catch me off guard. She still has the purple blanket. It lives at the back of her closet now, officially retired, but I know it's there because I am the one who put fresh sheets on her bed twice a month for 9 years, and I know every corner of that room. That is what 9 years looks like. It looks like knowing where the purple blanket is. Our relationship was not without friction. I want to be honest about that because the sanitized version of step-family life is not useful to anyone. There were years, particularly when Maya was 11 and 12, in the thick of early adolescence and the specific loyalty conflicts it brings, when she was harder to reach, when she would come back from her mother's house with a new distance in her that sometimes took days to dissolve, when I would make an effort and feel it land nowhere, and go to sleep wondering what exactly I was building and whether the building would ever feel finished. Daniel and I talked about it often during those years. He was patient and consistent in the way I needed him to be, and he never made me feel like the difficulty was my failure. But there were nights when I lay in the dark, thinking about what it actually cost. The continuous extension of warmth towards someone who could not always receive it. The ongoing recalibration of my own needs and expectations. The particular loneliness of loving a child who loves you back imperfectly, through layers of complication that neither of you put there, and neither of you can fully remove. But then 13 arrived, and something shifted. The distance shortened. She started coming to me with things. Small things at first. Questions about school. Opinions about friends. The low-stakes currency of a relationship that is testing whether it can bear more weight. And then slightly larger things. A conflict with a friend that had shaken her. A worry about her grades. A question about her body that she had been too embarrassed to ask her mother. She came to me with that one, the body question, on a Thursday evening when Daniel was out, and we were alone in the house, and I answered it as carefully and directly as I could. And when I finished, she said thank you, and went back to her room. And I sat in the kitchen for a few minutes, feeling something I can only describe as enormous. She had trusted me with something tender. After 7 years of groundwork, She had trusted me with something tender. I thought, this is what it was all for. Not the big moments. This one. By 14, she was telling me about the boy she liked, and the complicated social architecture of her friend group, and the thing her English teacher had said that had genuinely hurt her feelings. She was not easy, because she was 14, and 14 is not easy. And there were still nights when she was sharp with me in ways that were unfair, and mornings when she was gone before I'd come downstairs without saying goodbye. But the foundation was there. The thing we had built was real. I thought I was prepared. The afternoon it happened was a Sunday in October. We were at a birthday party for Daniel's nephew. A big family gathering, the kind with 3 generations in a backyard, and a folding table full of food and children, running in every possible direction. It was the kind of afternoon I genuinely enjoy. I am comfortable with Daniel's family, comfortable with the easy multi-generational noise of it, comfortable being exactly where I was. Maya had been quiet most of the afternoon in a way I had noticed, but not alarmed myself about, because 15-year-olds are frequently quiet in ways that mean nothing at all, and I had spent 9 years learning not to treat every shift in her mood as a weather event requiring emergency response. She had eaten. She had said the appropriate things to the appropriate relatives. She had tolerated her younger cousins with reasonable grace. At around 3 in the afternoon, her phone rang. She looked at the screen and something in her face changed. A tightening, a sharpening, a sudden focus that was different from her usual afternoon softness. She said she needed to take it and stepped away toward the far end of the yard. I watched her go, not with alarm, just awareness. The way you watch someone you know well move through a space. She was gone for about 8 minutes. 8 minutes is not a long time. 8 minutes is the length of 2 songs, the time it takes to reheat a cup of coffee, the duration of a short walk around the block. 8 minutes is nothing. 8 minutes can also be long enough for something to be said that restructures everything around it. When Maya came back, her face was different from when she had left. Not the quieter before. Something sharper had replaced it. Something with an edge. Something that had been assembled during the phone call and arrived in the backyard already fully formed. Her jaw was set. Her eyes had a flatness in them that I had seen before, in the 11 and 12 years, and that I associated with the specific kind of conflict she had not created but was carrying. She walked across the yard, directly toward me. There were people around the food table. My mother-in-law, Patricia, 2 of Daniel's cousins, a family friend named Donna, who had known Daniel since childhood, and who I had grown genuinely fond of over 6 years. Comfortable people. People I was completely relaxed around. Maya stopped in front of me. She said, loudly enough that everyone at the food table could hear it with perfect clarity, "You're not my real mom. You never were. Stop acting like you are." The yard did not go completely silent. The children kept running somewhere behind us. The general hum of the party continued at a distance, but in the immediate area, the food table, the people I knew, the circle of comfortable, familiar faces, everything went very still. Patricia's expression froze. One of the cousins took a small, involuntary step backward. Donna looked at a point somewhere above my left shoulder with the careful neutrality of someone deciding, in real time, not to witness something. I stood there. I want to tell you what happened inside me in that moment, with complete honesty, because the inside of the moment is as important as the outside. And I think the inside is what women in situations like this are rarely allowed to describe. The first thing was pain, immediate and physical, the kind that arrives before the mind has processed the words, that lives in the chest and the throat simultaneously. 9 years of accumulated effort and love and choice. And that is what is said to my face in front of people I care about. The second thing was anger. A flash of it, hot and clean. The kind you feel when something genuinely unfair has just happened to you, and your body knows it before your mind does. And the third thing, underneath both of those, quieter, already working, was a question. What happened on that phone call? Not, how dare she? Not, after everything I have done. Not the catalogue of grievances that would have been completely understandable and completely useless. Just what happened on that phone call. Because I knew Maya. I had been knowing her for 9 years. And the Maya standing in front of me, jaw set, eyes flat, something pointed and directed in her posture, was not the Maya who asked me body questions on Thursday evenings or told me about the boy she liked. This Maya had been handed something during those 8 minutes and had walked across the yard carrying it and pointed it at me because I was the available target. I understood that. I did not say any of the things I could have said. I did not say, after 9 years, this is how you speak to me in front of my family. I did not say, do you know what it has cost me to choose you over and over, when choosing you was not always easy? I did not say, your mother is on that phone, isn't she? And whatever she said is walking around in your body, right now, wearing your face. I said, you're right that I'm not your biological mother. I've never pretended to be. I kept my voice level, not cold, level. There is a difference, and I was aware of it in real time. But I'd like to talk to you when you're ready, I said. Not here, when it's just us. She looked at me. One long moment, and something moved across her face. Not softening, not apology, but a slight shift. The faintest recalibration, as if my response had not matched the response she had prepared for, and her body was adjusting to the difference. She walked away. She went to the far edge of the yard, away from the party, and sat alone on a low retaining wall with her phone in her hands, and stayed there for the rest of the afternoon. I turned back to the food table. Patricia put her hand on my arm and said my name once, quietly. I said, I'm okay. I was not entirely okay, but I was standing, and that was what the moment required. Daniel had not been close enough to see it happen, but he read it in the faces around the food table, the way you read the aftermath of weather in bent branches. He found me by the drinks table 20 minutes later, and I told him quietly what had happened. He closed his eyes. Open them. I'm going to talk to her, he said. Not yet, I said. She needs to sit with it, not be talked at right now. Let her sit. He looked at me for a moment. You're sure? Yes, I said. I know what she needs right now, and it isn't a conversation. It's time. I knew this about Maya the way I knew about the purple blanket. 9 years of paying attention to how she processed things. She was not a child who could be talked through something while it was still happening inside her. She needed the thing to settle before she could speak about it with any accuracy. If Daniel went to her now, she would either deflect or escalate, and neither of those served anyone. So we let her sit. We drove home in the particular silence of 3 people, managing different versions of the same afternoon. Maya in the back seat, looking out the window, her face reflected faintly in the glass. Daniel driving with the focused, careful attention of a man respecting a boundary he doesn't fully understand but trusts. Me in the front seat, watching the road go by and thinking about 8 minutes and what they had contained. At home, she went directly to her room. Daniel and I sat in the kitchen for a while. He wanted to go to her. I understood the impulse. It was the impulse of a father who loves his daughter and has just watched his wife absorb something painful in public and wants to fix both things at once. I told him I appreciated it and asked him to wait. What are you going to say to her? He asked. I don't know yet, I said. which was true. I needed to know what had happened before I knew what to say. I spent the evening doing ordinary things. I made dinner that Maya did not come down to eat. I watched television without watching it. I thought about Christine, about what she might have said in 8 minutes, about the landscape of her fear and her grief, and the ways that fear and grief can move through a phone line into a 15-year-old daughter who is at a party with her father and his wife and is supposed to be fine with all of it. I did not think badly of Christine. This is the thing about step-parenthood that the cultural narrative gets wrong. The wicked stepmother, the rival, the competition. Christine was not my enemy. Christine was a woman who had lost her marriage and was watching her daughter grow up partly in another woman's house, and was doing the imperfect, painful best she could with a situation she had not chosen and could not fully control. She made choices I would not have made. She said things that caused damage in ways she probably did not fully track. But she was not wicked. She was frightened. Frightened people say things in 8 minutes that take months to undo. At 9 o'clock, I went to Maya's room and knocked. She said, "Come in." She was on her bed with her knees pulled to her chest, still in her clothes from the party. The fairy lights above her headboard were on. The room had the specific quality of a space that has been occupied quietly for hours. The slightly compressed air of someone who has been sitting in their own thoughts for a long time. She looked smaller than she usually looked. I sat down on the chair at her desk. Not the bed. That felt like too much, like claiming something that needed to be offered before it was taken. The chair, with a little distance between us. The specific physical arrangement of two people who need to be in the same room without crowding each other. I said, "I'm not here to make you apologize." She looked at me. "I mean that," I said. "I'm not. I'm here because I want to know what happened on that phone call." A silence, the kind that has weight in it. Then, "Mom said something." "Okay." She pulled at a thread on her jeans. Once, twice. The gesture of someone deciding how much to give. "She said that you've been trying to take her place," Maya said. "She said she's heard things, I don't know what things, she didn't say, that made her think you were trying to make me forget about her. She was really upset. She was crying." I sat with that. I thought about the phrase "trying to make me forget about her," and felt something complicated move through me. Partly anger, partly sadness, partly the particular exhaustion of being misrepresented by someone you have tried for 9 years not to resent. I thought about how to answer it. This is the tightrope. The specific, invisible, unacknowledged tightrope of step-parenthood, that you will be required over and over to tell the truth about a situation in a way that does not weaponize the truth against a child. That you will have to find the version of honesty that informs without damaging. That you will have to do this when you are hurt and tired, and when the easy thing, the satisfying thing, would be to simply say what is true and let it land wherever it lands. "I have never tried to make you forget your mother," I said. "That has never been something I wanted. Your mother is your mother. That's not a position I've ever tried to fill, and it's not one I want." Maya was quiet. "What I have tried to do is know you," I said. "Be someone you could count on. Someone who is here, consistently, over time. Not instead of her, in addition to her, alongside her. Those are very different things, and I need you to know that I know the difference." "I know," she said, quietly, almost a whisper. "And I think you know," I said carefully, "that what happened in the backyard today wasn't really about me." She looked at the floor. "You were carrying something when you came back from that phone call," I said. "Something your mom put down and you picked up. And you needed somewhere to put it. And I was there. And I was safe. Because some part of you knew I wasn't going to fall apart, or disappear, or love you less. So you put it on me. The room was very quiet. That's not a criticism, I said. I want to be clear about that. I understand why I was the target. In a strange way, it tells me something about what we've built. That you trusted me enough to aim at me. That is not nothing. She looked up. Her eyes were red and wet. I'm sorry, she said. Her voice cracked on it. I know, I said. I knew the minute I said it that it was wrong, she said. I could see your face and I knew, and I couldn't take it back. No, I said. You couldn't, and it hurt. I want to be honest with you. It hurt. Not just the words, but the place. In front of those people. I want you to know that because I think you're old enough to hold that information, and I think you need it. She nodded, a small full nod. But here is the other thing I want you to know, I said. I forgave you for it before you finished the sentence. Not because it didn't matter, because you matter more than the hurt does. That is what I mean when I talk about choosing you. Not taking your mother's place, not competing, just choosing you. Again and again, including in a backyard on a Sunday afternoon when choosing you was genuinely hard. She got up off the bed. She crossed the room. All of it, the whole distance between the bed and the desk chair. And she put her arms around me, and I held her in the lamplight and the fairy lights with the party somewhere behind us, and 9 years of accumulated ordinary moments around us like furniture. She said into my shoulder, I don't want you to think I don't know what you do. I know you know, I said. I do know, she said. I really do. We stayed like that for a while. Then she pulled back and wiped her face with the back of her hand. A gesture so specifically her, so exactly the gesture she had used at 8 and 10 and 12, and sat back on the bed. We talked for another hour. About her mother, not badly, not as an adversary, but honestly, about the difficulty of Christine's position, and the ways that difficulty sometimes moved through Maya without her choosing it. About the loyalty pull, the impossible geometry of loving people who are in conflict. About what Maya needed from me versus what she needed from her mother, and whether those things could coexist without one cancelling the other. She said, I always feel like I have to pick a side. I said, you don't. That feeling is real, but the premise is wrong. You don't have to pick. Mum makes it feel like I do. I know, I said, and I can't fix that. I can only tell you that I am not asking you to. I will never ask you to pick me over her. Not ever. She looked at me for a long moment. Why not? She said. I thought about it. Because you loving her doesn't take anything from me, I said. That's not how love works. There isn't a fixed amount of it that gets divided up. You can love your mother completely and still have room for whatever this is between us. Those two things don't compete. She was quiet. I think she thinks they do, she said. I know, I said. That's her fear talking, not the truth. We sat in the quiet of her room for a little while longer. The fairy lights hummed. Outside, a car passed. Ordinary sounds of an ordinary evening, holding the extraordinary weight of what we had just moved through together. When I stood up to go, she said, Joanne. I turned around. Thank you for knocking, she said. I nodded. I didn't trust my voice entirely, so I nodded and went out and pulled her door most of the way closed behind me, and stood in the hallway for a moment with my hand still on the door frame. Then I went downstairs and told Daniel it was going to be okay. That was 7 months ago. In the months since, something has shifted between Maya and me in a way that I find difficult to describe without overstating it. It is not dramatic. It is not the sudden arrival of the relationship I always hoped for, presented fully formed like a gift. It is subtler than that. A new quality of ease, a reduction in the surface tension that had always existed between us at some low level, a sense that we had been through something real together and come out on the other side of it, knowing each other more accurately. She talks to me differently now, not constantly, not about everything. She is 15, and 15-year-olds have their own interior lives that are not available to parents or step-parents on demand, and I have never wanted to crowd that. But when she talks to me, there is less management in it. Less performance of fineness, more of the actual thing underneath. She told me in November that she had started therapy. Her own idea. She had asked her school counselor for a referral and followed up herself without telling either parent until she had already made the appointment. I thought that was one of the most self-aware things I had ever seen a 15-year-old do, and I told her so. She said, "I just think I've been carrying some stuff for a long time, and I'd like to put some of it down." I thought about a Sunday in October, about what I had said to her in her room about the version underneath the version. She had heard it. She had taken it somewhere useful. In December, she gave me a Christmas card. Not an elaborate one. A simple card from the drugstore, the kind with a generic winter scene on the front. Inside she had written, in her particular slanted handwriting, "Thank you for always knocking. Love, Maya." I have it in my desk drawer. I will have it in my desk drawer for the rest of my life. Last month she asked me to come to her spring art show, her first time having photography work displayed. She said, "I want you there. I mean, I want Dad there too, obviously, but I specifically want you there." I said, "I'll be there." She turned back to whatever she was doing with the absolute ease of someone who already knew the answer. "I know," she said. I thought about 9 years, about the list I had made in my head before I started, about the things I had chosen not to do, and the things I had chosen to do instead. The showing up, the waiting, the letting her set the pace, the absorbing the difficulty without withdrawing. About the backyard in October, and the room at 9 o'clock, and the hour we had spent talking about things that needed to be said. About a Christmas card in my desk drawer. About knowing where the purple blanket is. I'll be at the art show. I have already cleared my calendar. If you are a step-parent who has been in a backyard or a living room or a school parking lot and absorbed something that was not really meant for you, something that came from fear, from loyalty, from the impossible position of a child who loves people who are in pain, I want to say something to you directly. The work you do is real. The love you extend, the patience you maintain, the choosing and the choosing again. It is real and it counts, even when no one is tracking it, even when it seems to land nowhere, even on the afternoons when you are standing at a food table in front of people you care about and someone is pointing 9 years of accumulated difficulty directly at your face. It counts. And sometimes, not always, not on a schedule, not in the way or at the time you hoped for. Sometimes a 15-year-old girl crosses a room and puts her arms around you, and you hold on. Subscribe to Tender Heart Stories and tell me in the comments, are you a step-parent or did you have a step-parent? What made the difference? See you in the next one.